learn and follow these 4 important steps to totally change the way you design and ensure that the end results are actually simply amazing. So the first step is something many designers overlook, but you really cannot afford to ignore this. And actually, all of these 4 steps do link together, so do follow along throughout this entire video. But the first step is to look at the canvas size and orientation that you're working with. Take a look at these social media graphic designs. Pretty decent, aren't they? But look closely and you might notice how most of these designs are actually square in shape. When you start any graphic design project, the very first thing you should do is to understand your canvas size and orientation. If the designer here was told by the client that the designs were for a wide banner as opposed to square, their design choices and composition would be very different to how they are now. It seems intuitive and it seems basic, but the more you consider the first step when designing, the better your designs will become. On the flip side of that, without fully understanding and considering the dimensions of your canvas, you may very well make some poor layout design choices as an example. But here's a pro tip you do not want to miss. If you're designing for a brand, consider how your design will fit across various different sizes and shapes of canvas. And that's so it can be adapted to future projects and still look like they are linked together as one united design. So, once you've thought about the size and the orientation of your project canvas, the next step is equally as crucial. Have you ever heard of the saying, context is king? This saying actually applies so strongly to graphic design, and here's why. So what do you think about this Billie Eilish design? Pretty cool, right? Now, imagine you're zooming down the road in a car or perhaps a motorbike, and this design is there on a giant digital billboard off to the side of the road. Are you going to understand what this design is all about, and can you obtain information about whatever it's trying to communicate? Chances are no. Instead, something like this would be better suited for this project, and that's because there's very little text information on the design itself. It's simple and it's easy to understand, and this is perfect for its context. In graphic design, the context basically means where and how the design will be seen and used. This applies to every single design you make. If it's a favicon for a website or packaging for a cosmetic brand, you need to think about and visualize how the design is going to be seen and interacted with in the real world. It's no good making what seems like an awesome design which then falls flat when the client comes to use it because it becomes lost against other products or it doesn't look right in its natural environment. And you'll be surprised about how many beginner and even intermediate designers actually fall down for this reason alone. So far, we've considered the canvas shape, size, and the design's context. Next, something that very few designers question but which every single designer should consider. How dynamic do you want your design or need your design to be? When we speak about a design being dynamic, we refer to how much movement, flow, and energy it has. And to question this is super important, and here's exactly why. Typically speaking, designs that are heavily dynamic are designs that need to capture attention and fast. And the more static a design is, the better suited for projects where the design needs to convey more information. But this whole thing about a design being dynamic or not actually goes far deeper than this. How dynamic your design should be also comes down to the target audience. In general, younger audiences will relate more to dynamic designs. Also, we can look at things within the target audience such as their hobbies and their interests. A target audience that is interested in action sports would more often than not appeal to a more dynamic type of design layout. But another crucially important factor that goes into the dynamic scale of a design is the message complexity level. As a general rule, the more complex a message is to convey, the more static a design probably is going to be. So here, a design that raises awareness of marketing and automation platforms is obviously quite static and simple. The message is quite hard to convey. There is still some movement with the arms and the phones leading the eye upwards, but overall the design is quite static. So before you actually begin to design anything, make sure you consider how much movement and flow will fit into your design based on the target audience and the message. The fourth step, which will totally revolutionize the way you approach a design, is contextual relevancy. This is really important to tie a design down to its purpose, and it's where the designer tailors decisions to meet a specific approach. So on this design here, the bright, bold colors and energetic typography can convey the lively atmosphere of the music event. Also, notice the date of the event. It's in June. The colors are reminiscent of summer, which is relevant to the purpose or the situation of this design. And these choices, they help make this design more relevant to the audience and the background of the design message. And then here's an organic package design. Employing earthy tones and natural textures on the packaging will align with the brand's organic and eco-friendly message. Now here's another pro tip to keep in mind. The trick is to really understand the audience and the industry of your client or the brand. Then you can tailor the design to match up with those things. And in turn, then your design will become super relevant. Now let's quickly wrap everything up into one design example. I know you want to. The first step was to look at the dimensions of the canvas. So this canvas is narrow and tall, and the designer has made great use of that by having a person that stretches up to match the shape of the design on the canvas. The main information is at the bottom, which is where the viewer's eye will likely finish or end up. The second step was to consider the context of the design. So this design is an advert, and so it needs to be conveyed to the audience pretty quickly. And as you can see, the designer has made sure the important information is easily accessible, and the design itself is fairly simple. The color scheme ensures the main information stands out from the other aspects on the design as well. The third step was to consider how dynamic the design should be. As you can probably tell, this design is quite dynamic with lots of illustrations and even some typography swirling around in the background. The main typography is also in italics, and so yeah, this is a dynamic design for sure. But why? Well, because the audience is young, and importantly, the message is quite easy to convey in such a quick, clean action. There isn't too much information, so the design doesn't need to be static. And lastly, how is the design relevant to its cause or its message? Well, like I mentioned, the bright colors help make the typography stand out, the font choices help match the young audience as it uses modern sans serifs, and the model in the middle as a focal point will help the target audience relate to the design as well. This is a brief rundown of the 4 steps, but make sure to maybe take some notes, bookmark the video, or just simply watch it again to fully understand these points. A lot of designers just start designing without considering these steps, and they can then easily get into some problems or design something that is below what they're capable of making. Now, if you'd like to learn more essential skills, pro skills, amazing skills as a graphic designer, just click that video on the screen. But until next time, guys, design your future today. Peace.